The room was cold, colder than she expected for a hotel that cost more than her family earned in 3 months. Lila sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling slightly, clutching the hem of her worn-down dress. She had worn makeup for the first time in years, but the weight of shame made it feel heavier than the mascara on her lashes. Every part of her wanted to run, but her mother's face flashed in her mind, pale and sick, lying on that hospital bed with tubes keeping her alive. The doctors had said she needed surgery soon, and it wasn't covered by the clinic or any kind of insurance. They needed 20,000, fast, and no one gives that kind of money to people like her. Not without asking for something in return, so here she was, 19, broke, scared, but determined. The door opened behind her. She jumped. Footsteps, slow, confident, expensive, echoed through the room. She didn't turn at first. She couldn't. Her heart was thudding like it was trying to break out of her chest. "Are you Lila?" His voice was calm, low, deep enough to send a shiver down her spine. She nodded, slowly stood. When she turned to face him, her breath caught for a second. He wasn't what she expected. The man looked young, maybe early 30s, but something about him felt older, controlled. His black tailored suit hugged his frame like it was made just for him, which, judging by the luxury in his aura, it probably was. He didn't smile. His eyes, a sharp shade of steel blue, studied her face like he was reading through her lies. "You've never done this before." She stiffened. "No, but I need the money." His gaze didn't soften. If anything, it sharpened. "You know what you're giving me." "My virginity," she said quietly, almost choking on the word. He stepped forward. "And why me?" She looked at the ground. "Because the agent said you'd pay what I need." He reached into his coat, pulled out an envelope, and placed it on the glass table without a word. She glanced at it but didn't move. He sighed and finally truly looked at her. "Are you being forced?" She shook her head. "No, I'm choosing this for my mother." Something flickered in his eyes, anger, pain, respect, she couldn't tell. "I don't like being lied to," he said. "I'm not. Most girls say that, but they're here because of debts, drugs, pimps. You're just desperate." His tone turned softer. "You don't belong in this world." Lila didn't know what to say to that. She was already here. She didn't want pity. Then he did something unexpected. He sat on the edge of the bed, loosened his tie and leaned back, looking up at the ceiling. "I've done a lot of deals, but this one feels different," she frowned. "Why?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "Because you didn't come here to sell yourself. You came here to save someone. That's rare." She didn't know if that was meant to comfort her or confuse her. Either way, her hand still shook as she reached behind her back and unzipped her dress. He stood and gently caught her wrists. "Not like this. Not tonight." Her heart froze. "But the money. You'll still get it." He looked down, at her with something unreadable in his eyes. "But I'm not going to ruin you in a cold hotel room like this. But you paid for me." He smiled, the first real one she saw. "No, I paid to meet you." And with that, he turned and walked out, leaving her standing there, confused, trembling, and completely unaware that she had just unknowingly tangled herself into the life of Dominic Blackwell, billionaire CEO, control freak, and a man about to become dangerously addicted to the one thing he couldn't buy, her. Lila sat there long after he left, staring at the envelope on the table. Her fingers reached for it slowly, hesitantly, as if touching it would confirm that all of this had actually happened. She opened it, breath catching in her throat as she counted 20,000 in crisp bills, no contract, no receipt, no strings attached, except something inside her whispered, "There are always strings." The money saved her mother. The surgery went through, and slowly the color returned to her mother's cheeks. Lila smiled for the first time in weeks. But that peace was short-lived, because in the back of her mind, Dominic Blackwell lingered like a shadow. The man who could have taken everything from her but didn't. The man who looked at her like she was more than just a body to be bought. And for some reason, that was more terrifying than if he'd used her like she expected. She thought maybe that would be the end of it. But then came the car. It showed up a week later, sleek, black, and parked outside the rundown apartment complex like it didn't belong, which it didn't. The driver, a clean-shaven man in his 40s, stepped out and called her name. Miss Lila Hart. She stopped in her tracks, hands full of groceries. The boss sent this for you. He requests your company for dinner. She blinked. Dinner? Yes. Tonight. 7 sharp. Dress code, elegant. She almost laughed. Elegant? She owned 2 pairs of jeans and 1 wrinkled dress that smelled like hand-me-down perfume. But the driver handed her a sleek black box with a golden ribbon and a card tucked beneath it. Don't overthink it. Just wear this. No name, no signature, but she knew. Of course it was him. That evening, she opened the box to find a stunning black satin dress. It shimmered under the dim light of her bedroom. Her fingers ran over the fabric as her heart thudded wildly. She didn't know what she was doing. She barely knew who he was, but a part of her, deep and hidden, wanted to see him again, to know why he spared her, to ask him what he saw in her. When the car pulled up to a towering skyscraper in the city's elite district, she felt her throat tighten. This was no restaurant, this was his building, Blackwell International, the name etched in gold across the entrance like a monument to power, the kind of place she'd only ever seen in movies. The elevator felt like a rocket ship, shooting her to the top floor. When the doors opened, she stepped into a world of glass, steel, and silence. His office was massive, cold, beautiful. And there he was, standing by the window, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up, a glass of something dark in his hand. You. Came, he said without turning. I didn't really have a choice, she replied, her voice more nervous than she wanted it to be. He turned then, his gaze moving over her in that same unreadable way. Yes, you did. You always do. She felt her face heat up under his stare. Why am I here? Dominic set his drink down and walked toward her. Not fast, not slow, just enough to make her heart pound louder with every step, because I can't stop thinking about you. Her lips parted slightly. You barely know me. He stopped in front of her, inches away. That's the problem. She took a shaky breath. You said you didn't want me that night. I didn't want to ruin you that night. There's a difference. She stared at him, unsure whether to be flattered or terrified. Maybe both. I don't want this to be a transaction, he continued, his voice softer now. I want to know you. And yes, maybe that's selfish. Maybe it's because I've never met someone who made me pause. But you did. She swallowed hard. And what if I don't want to be known by someone like you? He tilted his head slightly, eyes narrowing with the challenge. Then I'll spend every damn day trying to change your mind. And as he stepped back and gestured toward a candlelit dinner already set on the edge of the office, Lila realized she wasn't dealing with just any man. She was dealing with a man who always got what he wanted. And right now, he wanted her. Dinner felt like a scene from someone else's life. Lila sat across from Dominic at a long, glossy table, the city skyline behind them glowing like scattered diamonds. The lights were dim, the food too perfect to touch, and the silence between them thick with everything unspoken. He poured her wine, though she barely sipped it. He spoke casually about work, markets, things she didn't understand, and then just as easily shifted to ask about her family, her mother, her life before that night. I don't want you to think I'm just some rich asshole who wanted to buy a girl for the night, he said at one point, folding his hands. She looked at him, trying to read through the calm in his voice. That's exactly what you were. He didn't flinch. Maybe. At first. She bit her lip and looked down at her plate. So what now? You throw money at me until I fall in love with you? Or do you want a mistress? A pretty little secret to keep on the side? His jaw clenched slightly. Is that what you think I want? I think you're used to getting whatever you want, she said, and you're not used to hearing no. Silence settled again. I don't want a mistress, he said quietly. I want someone who didn't come crawling to me, who didn't beg for favors or fake interest for a shot at my name. She looked up, meeting his eyes. Then why me? He leaned forward, elbows on the table. Because you were ready to... Destroy yourself for someone else. You were terrified that night and you still came, that kind of loyalty, that kind of love. I don't see that in this world." She blinked. His tone wasn't flirtatious or seductive. It was almost broken. "Don't make me into something I'm not," she whispered. "You don't even know me." "Then let me," he said, steady. "No expectations, no games. Let me take care of you, Lila." Her chest tightened. Those words, "take care of you." God, they were tempting. She was tired of struggling, of watching her mother suffer, of scraping together crumbs. And now here he was, offering her warmth, power, and something dangerously close to safety. But at what cost? She stood up suddenly. "I should go." He didn't stop her, just watched her walk to the elevator like he was memorizing every step. The next day, she found her tuition fully paid. Her mother's rent settled for a year, groceries delivered to their door without asking. Just silence, and yet his presence never left her. She saw his face in crowds, his voice echoed in her dreams. Her friends noticed her fading in and out, distracted, absent. "You seeing someone?" her friend Maria asked one night at their cafe job. Lila shook her head. "No, just someone I can't stop thinking about." 3 days later, she received a letter. It wasn't from Blackwell International. It wasn't typed. It was handwritten, and that somehow made it worse, more personal, dangerous. "You said I didn't know you. Then tell me everything. I'll listen. No deals, no conditions. Just you and me. I'll be waiting. You know where. To find me." Her heart pounded. She crumpled the letter into her hand, stared out her apartment window, like the city might give her answers. She should stay away. She should. But she didn't. That evening, she stood in front of Blackwell Tower, again her reflection barely recognizable in the glass, and as she stepped inside past marble floors and silent security, she realized something terrifying. She wasn't here because she needed him. She was here because she wanted him, and that scared her more than anything else in the world. The elevator. Ride up to the top floor felt heavier than the last time. Lila's fingers clenched the strap of her purse like it might keep her grounded, her thoughts spinning faster than the lights flashing past the floor numbers. She kept asking herself, "Why am I here?" She already had the money. Her mother was recovering. She owed him nothing, but the letter had done something. It cracked something open inside her, something she had buried for years, a need to be seen, to be wanted, not because of pity or power, but because of her. And somehow, against every logical thought in her head, Dominic Blackwell had done just that. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding. He was there. No security. No assistant. Just him, leaning against the edge of his desk, sleeves rolled up again. The city's glow behind him, making him look less like a CEO and more like a storm waiting to break. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. Lila walked in slowly. "Neither did I." They stared at each other in that charged silence for a moment too long, and then he gestured toward the leather couch near the window. "Sit, please." She sat, trying not to feel awkward, but her hands wouldn't stop fidgeting in her lap. Dominic poured them both drinks, non-alcoholic this time, she noticed. He handed her the glass and sat beside her, not too close, but close enough that she could smell the faint trace of his cologne. Clean, sharp, expensive. "You said you wanted to know me," she finally said, voice low. "I do." She looked at him, really looked. "Okay, then start asking." He smiled. A quiet, slow smile that reached only one corner of his mouth. "What was your favorite thing about being a kid?" That wasn't the question she expected. She blinked. We didn't have much, so probably when Mom let me stay up late. And we'd watch soap operas on this tiny TV. The picture was always fuzzy, but we'd make fun of the characters like they were people we knew." Dominic chuckled under his breath. "You're not what I expected either. Because I'm not rich, or because I didn't jump into your bed the first night." His expression shifted. "Because you're still standing after everything life's thrown at you." She didn't say anything. Her throat tightened unexpectedly. He leaned back, watching. Her carefully. What scares you most? She hesitated. Losing her. After everything I did to save her. If I still lost her. I don't think I'd survive it. He nodded. Quiet. Then his voice dropped just slightly. You said I don't. Know you, but I want to. Every scar, every dream, even the broken ones. She looked at him, heart thudding again. Why? Dominic's eyes didn't waver. Because you make me feel something, and I haven't felt anything real in a long time. The air between them shifted. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about sex. It was intimacy. Quiet, brutal, honest, and it was dangerous. He reached over, gently brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered, barely touching her cheek. I'm not asking for forever, he said. I just want to see where this could go. No lies, no pressure. Her breath caught. And if I say no, I'll walk away, he said, voice calm. But I'll always wonder what would have happened if I didn't. Lila searched his face, looking for a catch, a crack. But there wasn't one. Just him. Raw and real, and for the first time she didn't feel like the poor girl in a rich man's world. She felt chosen. She leaned in, her lips brushing his softly, just once, before she whispered, Let's see where it goes. And with that kiss she sealed a fate far more complicated than either of them could imagine, because what started as a transaction was quickly becoming an addiction. After that night, everything changed. Lila wasn't sure when exactly the line blurred. When? Dinners became routine. When his driver waited outside her apartment like it was normal. When she started waking up to breakfast deliveries and little handwritten notes that always ended in D. He didn't try to own her. Not yet. He didn't take her to his penthouse or parade her in front of his board. He didn't push, didn't demand. He just kept showing up in quiet, thoughtful ways, making her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time, safe, and that was the most dangerous part. Because while her heart was warming to him, her mind kept screaming that nothing this perfect comes without a cost. It wasn't love yet, but it wasn't nothing either. Lila walked into her tiny apartment one night after a shift and found her mother sitting on the couch, holding one of the Blackwell delivery envelopes. Who's Dominic? Her mother asked, eyes narrowed. Lila froze. Why? This came today. Her mother held up a sealed envelope with Lila's name in bold calligraphy. I opened it by mistake. I thought it was a bill. Inside was a voucher for a private medical consultant and a platinum card that had Lila's name embossed next to the Blackwell insignia. Her heart sank. He promised no strings, no control, but now it was bleeding into her family. I didn't. Ask for that, Lila muttered, taking the envelope and stuffing it in her bag. Her mother's voice was sharper than usual. Are you selling yourself to this man, Lila? No, she snapped, then caught herself. It's not like that. Then what is it like? Because no man gives this kind of money without expecting something back. Not in this world. Lila couldn't answer. She didn't even know what they were that night she called him. We need to talk, he answered on the second ring. I was just about to call you. Don't pay for my mother's treatment again. Don't send her things. She's asking questions. There was silence on the other end. Lila, he said carefully, I only did that because I thought I was helping. I wasn't trying to cross a line. You did, she said. My life doesn't work like yours. You throw money around like it's kindness. But to us, it's power, and it makes people suspicious. I understand, he said after a beat. I'll stop. She exhaled. Thank you, but something in his voice changed. Softer, sharper. I just want to take care of you, Lila. That's all. I'm not used to being with someone who doesn't need me. The words hit her in a strange place. Because he was right, she didn't need him. But lately she wanted him around more than she could admit. The next morning her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. You think you're special to him? You're not the first. Ask him about Elise. Anonymous Lila stared at the screen, her blood turning to ice. Elise. She hadn't asked Dominic about his past, didn't want to seem nosy or insecure. But now Now she couldn't stop the question from gnawing at her ribs. Who was Elise? Another girl he helped? Someone he couldn't let go of? Later that night she confronted him. They were on his rooftop, city lights blinking below, wind brushing through her hair. He had just handed her a glass of wine when she spoke. "Who's Elise?" His grip on the glass tightened slightly. Just a flicker. But she caught it. "You've been talking to someone." "I got a message, no name." He looked away, his jaw clenching. "That's a name I haven't heard in years." "Tell me." He hesitated, then finally said, "She was the first girl I tried to save, just like you. She needed help. And I gave it. We got close, too close. I thought I could protect her from the world she came from. And she used me, took everything she could and disappeared." Lila stared at him. "So why am I different?" "Because you didn't ask," he said simply. "Because you still haven't asked for anything." She didn't know what to believe. The words were right. But that shadow in his eyes, deep and unfinished, told her the story wasn't over. And neither was Elise. Lila couldn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, Dominic's voice echoing in her head. "She used me, took everything and disappeared." But something about the way he said it didn't sit right. Too controlled. Too clean, like a version of the truth that had been polished until it no longer reflected the mess underneath. And that message, the anonymous warning, it came from someone who knew. By morning, curiosity had turned to obsession. She tried to let it go, but something in her gut kept whispering that the past wasn't done with Dominic Blackwell. And if she got too close, she might get burned too. So she started digging. She borrowed Maria's laptop, used the cafe's Wi-Fi, and started with the obvious: Dominic Blackwell plus Elise. It took time, hours of reading old news articles, skimming business blogs, and going down rabbit holes of rumors and whispers. But finally something clicked. A grainy photo in a forgotten article dated 4 years ago. Dominic Blackwell exiting a courthouse. Beside him, a young woman with long red hair. Elise. The caption read, "Billionaire CEO settles out of court. Following accusations of coercion and abuse, woman involved declines to comment. Sources claim personal relationship turned sour." Lila leaned back, eyes wide. The words twisted in her stomach like knives. Coercion? Abuse? Dominic never mentioned any of that. And he had the nerve to say she used me? Her heart pounded as she stared at the screen. She didn't want to believe it. He had been kind, gentle, patient. He never laid a hand on her, never pushed, never threatened. But now every act of generosity, every gift, every kind word started to feel different. Like it was all part of a pattern, a method. What if this was how he operated? What if she was just another girl in a long line of broken pieces he collected until they cracked completely? She didn't realize her hands were shaking until Maria noticed. "Hey, you good?" Lila nodded too fast. "Yeah, just tired." But she couldn't stop thinking about the article, the photo, the way Dominic had looked at her the night he said, "You're different." What if he said that to Elise too? That evening she confronted him again, this time with something sharper in her voice. "Why didn't you tell me about the court case?" Dominic froze mid-step in his office. He turned slowly, his expression blank. "You went looking." "I had to," she said. "You gave me half the story and expected me to trust the rest." He walked over, slower than usual, more cautious. "It wasn't what it looked like. It never is, Dominic, but the words coercion and abuse don't show up in headlines by accident." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Elise was unstable. She came from a rough background. I tried to help her like I did with you, but she became obsessed, manipulative. When I tried to cut her off, she retaliated." "You still settled," Lila said coldly. "Which means something happened." "I didn't touch her," he said firmly. "I never laid a hand on her, never forced her into anything, but I did have power over her. And that alone was enough for her lawyers to make my life hell." She stared at him, trying to find the lie, the half-truth, the trap. "I don't want to be another Elise," she said finally. "You're not. Then prove it. Stop buying. Your way into my life. Stop trying to fix everything, just be real with me. Dominic looked like someone had just slapped him. I don't know how to do that. Then learn, she whispered, because if you don't, I'm gone. The silence that followed was unlike any they'd had before. He didn't fight. He didn't plead. He just nodded. I'll try, he said quietly. For you, I'll try. But as Lila walked out that night, heart heavy and hands cold, she had the strangest feeling that she had just pulled a thread in a very expensive suit, and something beneath it was starting to unravel. The days that followed felt different. Dominic kept his promise, at least on the surface. No more gifts, no more silent favors, no more uninvited power plays that made her feel like a charity case dressed in silk. Instead, he showed up. With words, with honesty. He asked her about school, about her dreams, about the way she liked her, coffee, and the books she used to read with her mother on rainy days. He didn't touch her unless she reached for him. He listened more, smiled more. He seemed human. And for a moment, just a small, fragile moment, Lila believed that maybe, just maybe, she could rewrite what this was. That it didn't have to. End like Elise, but the universe has a cruel sense of timing. It was a Tuesday when she saw the girl. Lila had gone to the Blackwell building, planning to surprise Dominic with lunch. She wore the same cheap ballet flats she always did, held a brown paper bag from his favorite cafe, and smiled at the idea of him being caught off guard for once. But as she stepped off the elevator, she stopped dead. In the middle of the reception area stood a tall, red-haired woman, elegant, pale, eyes like rusted metal, cold but aware of every room she walked into. Her lips curled in the kind of smile that knew secrets. She was speaking to Dominic's assistant, and her tone was laced with casual familiarity. Lila didn't have to guess. She knew, Elise. The woman turned slightly and locked eyes with her. Her smile widened, not warm, not kind. Predatory. You must be the new one, Elise said, voice smooth like poison dipped in silk. He has a type, Lila stiffened. I'm just here to drop off lunch. Elise stepped closer, lowering her voice. He said that to me too. The whole, I see something in you no one else does speech. Did he tell you he dreamed about saving you? That he wanted to be your protector? She chuckled, shaking her head. He collects girls like us. He loves the broken ones, until they stop needing him. That's not true, Lila said quietly. Isn't it? Elise's eyes sparkled with something dangerous. Ask yourself this, sweetheart. If you suddenly had everything you ever needed, if you didn't need Dominic anymore, would he still want you? Before Lila could respond, Dominic appeared. His eyes flicked from Elise to Lila, and the tension snapped in the room like a pulled thread. Elise, he said sharply, you weren't supposed to come here. She turned toward him slowly with a smirk. I needed to remind you I'm still alive, that we still have unfinished business. Her voice was soft but laced with threat. You can't bury me, Dom, you know that. He didn't even look at Lila. Leave. I'll see myself out. Elise glanced back at Lila with one last parting gift. He'll cage you eventually. They always do. And then she was gone. Lila stood frozen, the bag still in her hand. Why is she here? She asked, voice trembling. Dominic looked exhausted. She's trying to provoke me. She wants attention, relevance. That's all. But why now? He didn't answer. Lila felt something twist in her chest. What isn't she saying? She's bluffing, he said. Too fast, too defensive. She wants to make you doubt me. It's working, Lila whispered. He stepped forward, but she moved back. Don't. Just don't. I need to think. Lila, I told you I didn't want to be another Elise, she said, eyes stinging. But she looked at me like I already am. She walked out, this time not out of anger, but fear. Because Dominic's past wasn't just creeping into the present. It was wrapping around her, slowly tightening like a noose disguised as love. And the worst part? A small part of her still wanted to run back into his arms. 3 days passed. No calls, no texts, no late-night visits. Lila kept waiting for Dominic to show up at her door, or for another black car to pull up with some dramatic apology. But nothing came, and in that silence, something inside her cracked. Not from heartbreak, from clarity, because love doesn't come with fear. Real love doesn't make you feel like you're constantly being tested, weighed, watched. Dominic had made her feel seen, yes, but only through his eyes. Never through her own. She stood at the bus stop that morning, hair tucked beneath a hoodie, backpack slung over her shoulder. The world felt bigger than it had in weeks, louder, realer, colder. She thought she'd feel empty without him. But all she felt was awake. Her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize, a message: he won't stop, not until you're his completely. It's not over. He doesn't lose. Her blood turned to ice. But instead of fear, anger rose in its place. Enough of this game. She turned back, got off the bus before it left, and made her way to Blackwell Tower, on her own terms. When she stepped into Dominic's office, he was standing by the window, as always, a storm in a suit. "You look different," he said without turning. She dropped her bag on the chair. "Because I finally know what I want." He turned, watching her carefully. "And what's that?" "I want control back." Her voice didn't shake. "Of myself, my choices, my future. You wanted to protect me, but you wrapped me in a silk cage. I can't breathe in here." His eyes darkened, jaw tense. "I never meant to trap you, but you did. You gave and gave until I felt like I owed you something, and I was so scared of losing you, I didn't see what was happening." He stepped forward. "I love you, Lila." She didn't move. "I believe you, but your love comes with conditions. It comes with shadows, with Elise, with control. And I can't live like that." His voice cracked just slightly. "So you're leaving?" "I have to," she whispered. "Not because I don't care, but because I do, and I can't lose myself in you." Silence. Then he reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. He handed it to her. She opened it slowly. Inside was a legal document. Her mother's medical bills, paid in full, her school tuition, transferred directly under her name. The Blackwell account card, closed. "I did this before you walked in," he said quietly, "because I knew this was coming." She looked at him, stunned. "You're really letting me go?" He nodded. "I don't want to be another reason you can't sleep at night." For a moment she saw the boy underneath the billionaire, the man who never learned how to love without owning. "I hope you find peace, Dominic," she said. "Real peace, not the kind you buy." And with that, she turned and walked away. No driver, no gifts, no goodbye kiss, just her free. Months later, Lila stood outside a bookstore smiling as she helped her mother into a chair. She had a part-time job now, enough to get by. Enough to dream again. She checked her phone once, no new messages, no missed calls, and for the first time she didn't hope there would be. She was no longer someone's savior, no longer someone's obsession. She was just Lila. And that was finally enough.